Hello, I'd like to talk about a new feature in the Alma February 2014 release, sending lender checked-in messages. Now, basically, this feature is available for resource sharing between partners who are using the ISO ILL standard. And what happens is at the very end of the loan, when the borrower returns the book to the lender will see a little checked in action on the request. And when the lender clicks checked in, the request will be completed on both lender and borrower sides. So basically, the lender automatically sends an ISO message to the borrower, causing the request to be completed on both sides. Okay, so let's first run a demonstration of this. We'll create a borrowing request with an ISO ILL partner of our institution. And then at the end of the request, we'll send one of those checked in messages from the lender to the borrower. And afterwards, we'll see which configuration is needed on both sides in order to complete such requests. Okay, so first let's begin by creating a borrowing request. Now, we're in the borrowing requests. We'll add a new request for a book. And suppose that John Smith, one of the patrons from our library, wants to borrow the book Eumenides. And the requester is John Smith. Pick up at resource sharing library. Agree to copyright terms, and we'll add a partner. Our partner is Booklender University, which happens to be configured to communicate with us through the ISO ILL standard. So later we'll look at how this partner is configured, but for now it's just important to know that this is one of our ISO ILL partners. Select, and we're ready to send the request. So go. Okay, so we can see here that the request was sent to the partner. And now let's go and see what happens in the lender institution. So here I am in the Alma of the Booklender University, and we're going to go to our lending requests. And lo and behold, we've received the lending request. External identifier. That's worth copying this because we're going to need it in a moment. And let's first find the item. So I'm going to search by the barcode of Eumenides. And Eumenides by Aeschylus. We'll select it. And lo and behold, the book was selected. Okay, so still on the lender's side, let's now scan the book into the resource sharing library. So we're currently at the resource sharing library, and we're going to scan the book, scan in items, and we'll go by the external identifier of the request, which I have saved in my clipboard, and the item barcode, which I know by heart. Okay. Great. So now we can see that the book has been scanned in to the resource sharing library. And if we go back to the lending request, we can see that the request status is shipped physically. Okay, so now the borrower is going to receive the book. So back to the borrower side. And here under Eumenides, the borrower now scans the item in. They received the shipment. So let's scan in the item. We have to be in the resource sharing library. Let's scan in the item. And we have to give a temporary barcode. Okay, great. So the item has been scanned in on the borrower side. And if we go back to our borrowing requests, we can see that the book has been physically received by the library. Now let's assume that we've already loaned it to John Smith and John Smith returned it, and now we return it back to the lender. So we click on return. And back at the lender institution, let's refresh the lending requests. And here we can see that the resource has been returned by partner. And now we get to the crux of our demonstration. There is a new action here, checked in. And when I click on this, the request will be completed not only on our side of the lender, but also on the borrower side. Alma will automatically send an ISO message from the lender to the borrower. So I click on checked in. And we can see that request is completed on the lender side. And if I go to the borrowing institution, to borrowing requests, we can see that the request has been automatically completed on the borrower side as well. Okay, so all of the communication between these two partners was done automatically through ISO ILL. So there's two things that you need to configure here. One is you need to make sure that the borrowing and lending workflows of the partner include the check-in step for the lender. So that is done under fulfillment configuration. Under resource sharing, workflow profiles, I have two workflow profiles, and you'll notice that they both have lender check-in. Both the borrowing workflow and the lending workflow have lender checked in. If you don't have such a workflow profile, then it's very simple. Add workflow. We'll call this temp lender workflow. And here in the list of steps, we have lender check-in. And you can select any amount of steps you want. Add and close. And here we've just created a workflow profile that includes the lender check-in step. And the other thing to see is that the partner is indeed an ISO ILL partner. So back to fulfillment configuration menu. Resource sharing partners. Our partner was the Book Lender University, or BLU. And if we take a look at the configurations of this partner, A will see that the borrowing workflow and lending workflow are the two workflows I've just shown you, which include the lender check-in step. And B, we can see that the profile type of this partner is ISO, which basically enables this feature. So that's it for lender checked-in messages in ISO ILL. Thank you very much for listening to this session.